Hello and welcome to CipherSuite Tech. I'm your host CipherSuite, and today we're going to learn all about tar. So what is tar and why should you care? tar stands for tape archive, but despite the name you don't actually need to put it on any kind of tape media. If you're familiar with Windows, you can think of it kind of like zipping up files. However, tar is a little bit different because all tar does on its own is bundle files all together. When you bundle files together, it creates what's often referred to as a tarball. So what is a tar file good for? Well, it makes moving files around all in one go much easier, rather than referring to the files individually or the wildcards. And if you compress the file, tar file, which you often will, it will take up less space on disk and be quicker to transfer across the network. So, how do we create a tar file? You can create a tar file from just a single file if you want to, and we'll do that now. So let's create a file. File1.txt. So we just do tar, C for create, V for verbose, F for the file name we want to create. So I'll just call it my tar1.tar. And then we specify the file that we want to tar. We're only tarring one file in this example, but we'll do more a little bit later. There we go. What have we got now? We've got file1.txt as before, and my tar1.tar. So let's have a look in the UI. Here we go. Looks a little bit like a zip file. Have a look. File1.txt. So if we want to unzip it, untar it. Just create a folder there. We just do tar, X for extract, V for verbose, F, and then the name of the file. And because the file name that I put in the tar, file1, is in the same folder we're actually in, I'm going to specify C, which allows us to specify the output path. So I created the folder untarred. Do that. And if we cd into untarred, do an ls, we've got file1. There we go. Let's get rid of that. So how about doing multiple files? So you've seen before how we do copies and moves. We can just specify them with spaces. It's very similar with tar. So let me just create another file. f2 file2.txt. Do an ls. Okay, so we've got file1 and file2. So we go tar, C for create, V for verbose, F for file, and we'll say my tar1.tar, and then we specify file1.txt and file2.txt. Go. And now if we extract the tar, we'll go tar, X for extract, V for verbose, F for file, my tar1, C for the path that we want to put it, and we'll put it in untarred. Okay, cd into untarred, do an ls, and there we go. Let's clear that up. Let's get rid of the tar as well. So that's how to create a tar file. So I mentioned earlier that tar files aren't compressed by default. So how do you compress them? Because we want to do that, where if we can free up some space or make our network transfers quicker, we want to do that. So what we're going to do is just double check what's there. Okay, so let's create a compressed tar file. So for that, there's before I start, there's two methods of compression. There's gzip and bzip2. I'll go over those in a second, but for now, I'll just show you what gzip is. So we go tar, C for create, V for verbose, Z for zip, gzip, and F for file again. And we specify my tar, tar1.tar, and we add gz to the end. And then, like before, we specify file1 and file2.txt. Hit enter and do an ls, and we can see my tar1.tar.gz. So gz is just a naming convention to say this is gzipped. You don't actually have to put the gz there, but it's up to you. It's helpful, it's by convention. Most people do it. When you see gz at the end, you know it's gzip compressed. And by the same token, with a tar file, you don't have to put .tar at the end, but if you don't put an extension on, then it's not going to be obvious that it is a tar file. So generally, put tar on there. If it's just a tar, put tar.gz if it's a gzipped tar. So I'll just show you what that looks like in the UI. So you've got a bit of a visual. My tar1.tar.gz. Double click it, just like before, file1, file2. You can't visually tell the difference between the gzip version and the non-gzip version. So I'll just show you what it looks like without the gz zipping. So I'll write it, I won't be lazy. Tar c bf my tar2.tar no gz. And we'll go file1.txt and file2.txt. Okay, so now if we ls, we can have a look, and we can see my tar2.tar, the one that isn't gzipped, is 10,240 bytes, but the one that is gzipped is 156 bytes, so way smaller, much smaller. So if we're transferring these two files across the network, although they're really tiny, it would be much better if we gzipped it for the sake of speed. Okay, let's clear that. So I mentioned how to do gzip, so let's show you bzip too. So let's have a look. So we want to go to tar, C for create, V for verbose, J for bzip2, and F for file. My tar b 3, let's say, .tar.bz, file1.txt, and file2.txt. So J is a bit of a weird one. I'm not sure why it's J. That's just what it is. Z was taken, and it's not gzip, so you just have to, they just picked something else, I guess. I'm sure there's some historical reason for it. There we go. And let's do an ls-l. So we can see the bzip is actually a little bit bigger, which is a bit of a surprise to me because bz2 is supposed to have better compression but be a lot slower. Maybe it's just a very small sample size. If I had 10,000 files, maybe it would compress it a little bit better. So why would you choose gzip over bzip? It's faster. It still provides very good compression. Bzip is good if you've got like maybe if compression is a really big deal to you and you can afford to wait. So bzip2 is a lot slower than gzip, and the compression is better, but it's up to you how you which one you pick. Most people tend to gzip just because it's fast and the compression is good enough. But if the compression ratio is a really big deal to you and you've got time to burn, then choose bzip2 if you choose. So why would you use bzip or gzip? I've already mentioned that you can transfer stuff over a network quickly, and I'll give you an example of why you might want to do that or when you might want to do that. If you are wanting to SSH into a server and you want to transfer many files with SCP, which I'll cover in another video, it's far easier to copy over one file than it is for you to list loads of wildcards and loads of file paths for a dispersed number of files, for example. If it's just one, you probably wouldn't bother unless it's a really big file. But if it's 10 or 20 or 30, then it's way easier to manage if you just have to transfer one zipped tar file that you then unzip on the other end than it is to do 10, 20, 30 files individually and have some massive command line that you won't be able to read or easily mess up. It's just an easier way to work, so why make your life more difficult? Okay, that's everything you need to know about how to use tar on Linux. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with our latest content. Thanks. Bye.